Thanks, everyone. So my name is Edmund Turbin. I'm here to talk about GeoIP. So I work at WP Engine. I'm a solutions engineer. Essentially, I help with sizing clients to the right fit. Does anybody know WP Engine? Does anyone not know what we do? Okay. So we're a managed host for WordPress. So what we have a way of hosting WordPress, which makes it easier for people to develop and not have to worry about the infrastructure side of things. So I work to make sure that people, when they come onto the platform, they are set up for success, that they are fit into the right plan, and that they can also grow as their needs grow. So I'm here to talk about GeoIP. GeoIP is a really exciting technology. It's something that it is based on open source database. It's something that our labs team has developed. We have at WP Engine, we have an innovation labs team, and this is something that they've worked on to basically improve the way that we use the internet and the way that websites work. That's really interesting technology because I think it does, in the end, make things easier. So I have an introduction where I'll talk about GeoIP, kind of give you some background information, describe it, kind of help you understand what it is, and we'll talk about some people who are actually using GeoIP. I'll go into a technical overview, a bit of code and database screenshots so that we can understand what the data actually looks like. And I've got some resources and some time for QA at the end. All right, so with every solution, there's a problem. So GeoIP, we're trying to solve a problem here. So what is that problem? So many sites have, they ask you to select something when you go onto a site. So I go onto a site, and I have to identify myself to the site to get relevant information. So many times, you'll go to a site, it's going to ask you, what's your country, where are you? So the process goes like this. Your visitor selects country, and they're directed to relevant content. So you're taken to content that's appropriate. It's not perfect. It feels like an extra step. Why should I have to tell the website where I am? Shouldn't it know already? So the answer is, I think yes, we do have technology that can help identify where users are. And that is a big part of how GeoIP works and what it does. So GeoIP is a solution for delivering relevant content to users. It's based on finding and locating a user, and it's helping to optimize user experience and the journey that you have on a website. So you're looking to find a user, locate them by an IP, see if there's any content that is relevant to them. So this is very important because sometimes there's going to be global content that's the same for everyone. So sometimes you won't have specialized content. So GeoIP allows you to specify a certain user set that has access to different content, but it keeps everything on the same URL. So you're going to be on the same page as everybody else is, but you may see something different depending on where you are. So we're going to deliver that person relevant content, and one of the advantages of GeoIP is that it's cached. So it's made in a way that it's easier for you to download. So it's not processed dynamically. It's not something that you go and as you request it's generated. It's something that's saved already in a state. So for every different combination of content that you could possibly have, it would actually be saved in a cache. So how does it work? So we look for a user's IP address. So an IP address is where you are on the internet. So everyone has a number that locates them. So we look for the IP and match that on a location. So in the database for GeoIP, there's a range of IPs, and for each IP range, there's locations. So we'll take a look at that in a bit when we go into the technical overview. So we're matching the location, and then we're able to pull details such as country, city, region, postcode, state, depending on your country, these will be a little bit different. You can also get latitude and longitude. So once we know where a user is, we can create rules and say, oh, if this user is in Great Britain, let's do something. Let's direct them to the right page. Let's give them relevant content related to an e-commerce site. So currency, maybe shipping and tax, things like that. And then we'll deliver that relevant content cached. So it's not going to be generated for each time. What's it used for? What do we use GeoIP for, and what are some potential uses? A great use is to redirect traffic to a local site or a country-specific site. Maybe it's for language, maybe it's for currency, or maybe it's just a specific site for a country. Changing currency, tax, shipping information, what I've just said essentially is real benefit to e-commerce. You can also do some location-based marketing. You'd be able to target users in a certain geographic area. I can give you a good example. International students, this would be a really, really interesting application. You would be able to know that visitors on your site are not from your country, and you could target information to them that would appeal to them or that's appropriate for them. There's another example I think is a really interesting potential use for GeoIP, which is on-site, off-site content. So let's think about being at a hotel. You're in a hotel and there's many hotels. It's a chain of hotels. So the location where you are has events and amenities and different features from another hotel that in the chain. So while you're on site at that hotel, you'll be able to see relevant content. So you'll be able to see the events that are relevant to you rather than just going to a main site and then selecting you're at that location and you're pulling down something that's meaningful and it's not wasting your time. You can also you can use GeoIP for legal information. So you'd be able to know that in a specific country there's a law, there's a requirement, and you could create appropriate messaging. You also would be able to find out a branch or a store or a location that's close to you. This could be useful for retail, for brick and mortar, for maybe when you're shopping online and then locating something in an actual store, but also maybe for finding something that's close to you in your geographic area. All right, so we've got some case studies here. The first case study is Vincentius Apparel. So Vincentius creates football-themed fashion jerseys, essentially hats, jerseys, sweatshirts. So everything's football themed. It's an e-commerce store. They're a global brand, and what they wanted to do is to eliminate the user selection of currency. So you can see on the screen here. Well, you can kind of see it. This says pound sterling. So when I come onto this site, it automatically knows that my location is London and it should be in pound sterling. So they tried to do this. They took a stab at doing this on their own, and it was unsuccessful. It was dynamic, and because they weren't able to implement caching, it brought the site to a halt. So it's a little bit of information about Vincentius. So they're a global clothing company. They're sporting fashion enthusiasts. I think it's really cool clothing. It's got great appeal. So how are they using GeoIP? They're using it to improve user journey while shopping, so I don't have to self-identify. I don't have to select anything while I go and enter the site. They're also using the caching to maximize performance, and that's really important for them. So here's a quote from Vincentius, from Bruno, their co-founder. What I like about this quote is he says, we're offering various currencies and the site is going faster. So this is really, it sort of achieved something that Vincentius was looking to do. So the next case study is Arnet Eyewear. Arnet is an optical and eyewear company. So many of their products are based around sports, like extreme sports, like snow sports, skateboarding. They appeal to musicians, celebrities, basically anybody who wants to look cool. So my first pair of sunglasses was Arnet's. Got them way back in the day when the company was very, very young. It's just a very awesome company to talk about because I have a close personal connection. So yeah, so they're an iconic brand. They've been around for quite some time. They're also a global brand, so they have some of the same challenges as Vincentius has. They need to appeal to a wide audience, and there are some differences between their product ranges that they offer around the globe. So if you go to Arnet, you go to their website, you'll be redirected to a global.arnet.com, depending on your location. And if you're in an area where there's a specific product set, you would see that. That would be available to you. So how is Arnet using GeoIP? They are doing the same as Vincentius was doing. They're improving user journey while shopping. They are maximizing performance, but they're also delivering relevant product lines. And I think that's a really cool use of GeoIP because then I'm not frustrated when I go and select a product and I go to checkout and the product's not available in my area. So, sorry, I went a little bit too fast there. This is a quote from Eric Myers, Arnet's digital marketing specialist. So he says it's improved site accuracy several times over. So obviously this is something that's been a benefit to Arnet and achieving what they want to with their e-commerce site. So on a technical side of things, how does GeoIP work? What are the components and how do I get it working locally? Not locally, but on your site. So how do I get started? It works with a WP business plan or higher. It actually could work with a lower plan, so all of the shared plans at WP Engine would be able to use GeoIP. But for any use, no matter what plan you're on, you have to give us a call for support. So I just wanted to take a second to point out that this is, what I'm talking about is WP Engine specific, but you're free to actually use GeoIP. It is open source. It's something you can download and take a look at, just as I have. And it's something that I wanted to dig into and take apart, but anybody can do that, and you can implement this in any way that you feel fit. So there's a WordPress, WP Engine GeoIP plugin that you can download from the WordPress plugin repository. There's some documentation as well with the plugin, and some of that will mention shortcodes. So you'd be able to use shortcodes in content to get variables like country, city, state. If you want to do more complex operations, you would need to use PHP, and it would be more of a, you need to have a developer or somebody who's technical go in and actually create some logic that says, if a user is from this country, do something. And there's a couple of debugging plugins. There's a GeoIP debug plugin, and your essential debug tools would be probably a good thing, so you can understand what variables are coming in. So when a person goes and makes a request and it's on a GeoIP site, the GeoIP variables are taken in through the header request. So that's how you can actually see the information that comes in. So, and again, so if you are interested, it's something that you would need to contact support to get GeoIP fully set up. So the information that we can identify at this point is based on the database. So it's based on what's currently available. So these are some examples of variables that you would use to identify the country, state, city, postal, latitude, and longitude. So that's exactly what it would look like from a programming perspective and how you'd use it. This is actually a function that shows how you'd instantiate an object to actually work with GeoIP. So you've got this function, append content, you're instantiating the object, and then you're creating a content variable. Essentially all we're doing here, I know this is a lot of text, but it's really simply we're replacing this GeoCity in GeoCountry with a variable that's pulled in from that header request from the initial GeoIP for this. So this is what we would get. How's the weather in London, GB? Once we have that information, we can use this add filter function to actually attach that to our theme and to print that out to our pages. So I'm going to jump into the database so we can see how this all looks and what the actual data looks like. So we're looking at IPs by location. How does GeoIP know my location? It really doesn't. It just knows your IP address. So there's a range of IP addresses that are linked to a location ID. So these ranges, so you've got a start IP and an end IP. And a location can have many ranges. This location actually would fill the entire page for a long time. This location ID is London. So there's so many ranges in London that it's a huge list. So I've gone ahead and drilled down a little bit, and I've gone to city. So you've got country and city, as well as region. I'm not sure how useful these regions are. I was trying to understand what they're used for, but in other countries that would be like a state. So you've got country, region, city, and also latitude and longitude. So if you're just looking at Great Britain, you've got latitude and longitude that's probably not telling you a lot. You know where the country is, but you don't know too much about the user. But you can, as you drill down, you get more specific, and you get a more specific location. So all right, so now I know the city, I've got a sort of range. I'm not where the user is yet, but we're pretty close. So now we're looking at postal code. So I've gone down another level. So we've got you, and we're now pretty close to where you actually are. So we're matching this location ID on your IP range, and then finding you by this latitude and longitude, or postal code, or city, or any of these different pieces of info. So what happens if GeoIP can't find me? It doesn't know my postal code. How does it locate me, and what do we do then? So as a fail-safe, I think it makes sense to always go and make sure that the least relevant content, or the least relevant match would always have some value. So I would always make sure that it defaults to Great Britain, but if you have region and you have city, then you get a more specific location ID. As far as resources go, how do you actually use GeoIP? How do you get started? There's a troubleshooting guide on the web on the support wiki for WP Engine. There's a debug plugin, which I mentioned earlier. I think that's it makes sense to use that if you're planning to start working with GeoIP. There is a guide to using GeoIP and how it's been used by other people. There is a link here to download the plugin, as well as a link to contact support in case you actually wanted to start working with GeoIP. So, and again, it makes sense to mention that you're free to work with GeoIP, and you know, it's not just a WP Engine product. So I'm using GeoIP version 6. Will it work? It won't work. So right now the database that we're using is IPv4. There is an IPv6 database. You can go ahead and use that, and feel free to work with that. I think at this point, that as there's demand, I could see us adding support for IPv6. So if you're not using GeoIP, you're not using WP Engine, can you still use GeoIP? Yep, absolutely. So you know, that's a custom solution. I want to use GeoIP for something that I didn't mention today in this talk. So yep, absolutely. We'd love to hear about it. I think that what we're looking to do is find good applications for this, and I think that there's a lot of creative people here. I'm sure that there are some ideas about what you could use GeoIP for that we haven't really talked about. So that said, what will you use GeoIP for? I just want to kick off a Q&A session asking that question.
Would it work for a compass out of the box?
Yeah, so I mean, I think you would have to set up, like, did you see how I had the PHP code?
Yeah.
And so you set up some logic there. You would have to do that, but yeah, there shouldn't be a reason that it wouldn't work with WooCommerce. So, and I think that some of these sites actually are on WooCommerce. I believe Incentius is WooCommerce.
If you work on mobile, how does the mobile IP addresses kind of come through?
Yeah, so I don't really know if it's looking at, and I had a good think about this as well, for mobile, how your IP would work. And I think that, I don't really know that it's thinking in like a GPS way where you're triangulating and finding users' location. You're really going the other way. You're finding that IP and then sort of mapping. So there's definitely room for error, and if the database is not current and things have changed, your IP might actually come up in a different place and throw an error. So that's why I suggested that debug plugin as well, so you can see really what's going on for some users, and you can understand, you can actually see as people hit your site a log of the errors. So it's a helpful tool. Any other questions? Yeah?
Yeah. When I'm doing searches on Google, it's obviously doing reverse IP lookup to find out where I am. And very often it thinks I'm in London when I'm about 150 miles away.
Yeah. It's interesting, yeah. So I would imagine it's not getting specific enough information. So whatever's happening in that lookup, it's not able to resolve to your actual location, so it's defaulting to a city that maybe...
I'm guessing it's a dynamic IP allocation.
Yeah,
So how's, yeah, exactly. So how's it doing that? So I'm a user, I'm getting dynamic IP from my host. My service provider,
yeah,
which could be anything.
Yep. So my guess is that it's the IP range, so that we would know that your IP, even though it is dynamic.
That's the IP range of BT or whoever, rather than me.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm just wondering, because it obviously does happen, because it's happening to me on a daily basis. I don't really care that much. But if it's saying that you're in London and you're going to find my nearest whatever it is, it's going to be way wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, are you experiencing things like that?
So yeah, I've seen errors, I've seen things not work, and it depends, and definitely with a dynamic IP, it's something that I've had to sort of troubleshoot as well. So yeah, I mean, it works in some places better than others. I think that's kind of to be expected, and it also does have to do with the accuracy of the database and those IP ranges.
It's strange, I find it unpredictable. So
Yeah.
Google or something else will often get my location wrong because at home I've got dynamic IP address. But my iPad, wherever I am, always seems to know exactly.
It uses a combination of
Yeah,
GPS chip.
It uses Wi-Fi maybe also as well. Yeah. Interesting. Sure.
Are you looking at sort of extending this so it doesn't just use an IPv4 database, like actually using the information the browser gives you, and also maybe using, obviously now a lot of mobiles come with GPS built in.
Yep.
You can request from the browser the actual physical location of the device, obviously
Yeah.
providing permission to give. But would you not bring this into this?
It's a logical next step.
Because like when IPv6 comes more widespread, the idea of every device has its own address. Certainly with mobile, you can't tie it down to a single location, because you could basically take this anywhere in the world. And because that IPv6 address belongs to this device, there is going to be no database of locations, addresses. So it feels like you should be using more than just a database.
Yeah, I think that's probably next steps, and I think as of right now, your good uses of GeoIP are those larger ones like country, like where are you regionally, rather than the more specific latitude and longitude, because you can just tell that those coordinates are not going to be specific even if they were. It's not going to get you that, if you're obviously not going to be, it's not going to be the same as GPS and that same type of accuracy.
Yeah. But I was just saying, using that to detect what country you're in or what city you're in, not necessarily your exact pinpoint location.
Yeah.
Because obviously, like even with IPv4, like if you're on a mobile and you're travelling up by train or something, you're going to be jumping between different cell towers.
Sure.
That database is going to give you the wrong city. Whereas if you're getting that data directly from the browser, you're going to get accurate data.
Yeah.
rather than a database that could be out of date or, yeah.
But surely there comes a point where it gets kind of a bit dodgy when you actually
Yeah,
go
no,
to
but that's why
where
browsers-
somebody's location. It's kind of
But that's why
quite invasive.
browsers ask you for the
Yeah.
permission to give that over, but it seems like you should add that as a
It's an extra
possibility.
step for the user as well. Whenever you ask for additional information from the user, you're going to have a dropout rate of people saying no.
Yeah, so you keep falling back until
That's a good point, isn't it? Because how does it work? Where, like, you know, if I'm going up to Edinburgh on a train and I have the Wi-Fi from Virgin East Coast for 4 hours, like from London to Edinburgh, is my IP address going to change with on my laptop for that journey?
I don't know. I haven't done much testing with this as far as going on trains and doing GeoIP. I do know that I've done things like location-based, so when I go to a fixed location, it's generally accurate. I've seen issues on some networks where there's a dynamic IP, but for the most part, it knows kind of where I am. So. But yeah, really, really good questions. I'd actually like to know the answers myself and to see what's sort of in the future on the roadmap
Yes,
for
and
GeoIP.
I'll fix it.
Yeah.
Just, I work quite a lot with mapping solutions. Particularly I tend to think sort of more to working with OpenStreetMap. And a couple of issues that have been mentioned is that the IP address is assigned at your local level is at best by your telephone exchange. So you could be 4 kilometres away from your local telephone exchange. If you're on a bigger national network like Virgin, Telecom, or possibly Virgin Trains and so on, mobile phones, then you can be getting your IP address from wherever their local hub is, which could be a quarter of the country. So IP certainly is useful for things like country location, possibly city. As the chap at the front mentioned, modern mobile devices, and comment about the iPad always seems to know, is that extra information that it provides. And when I build tools that the device needs to be able to work out exactly where you are at the time, you have to use that information. The IP address is very vague. I mean, I find it useful for stopping Chinese leaving stupid remarks on comments, but that's about as far as it goes. It's just not reliable. And also people I use VPNs all the time, so as far as Google is concerned, all of a sudden I'll jump from Southampton to Toronto in a flick of a switch, and it all changes. It's just not reliable.
Yeah, and I think the takeaway is clearly it's not going to locate exactly where I am, but it's going to be for that area, for the region. And I think that most of the applications, and especially the e-commerce, was looking at country rather than where I am right now.
Language and currency are the two most critical.
yeah. But with those, would you say the headers that the browser's giving you to say what locale the browser's in, rather than using country? So if I was travelling abroad, say I was travelling to the States, maybe I still want to browse in Great British pounds. So based on GeoIP, it would switch it to USD.
Yes,
it would. But if it just used the headers from the browser, then it could say, yes, you're UK national, you want this certain locale. Use that. I feel that's something you presumably, because you're just scouring the headers for the IP anyway, you just add that to the mix of guessing the right country that the user's in.
Yeah, as you say, because often the language and the system is included in the header detail.
Yeah, and that you don't even have to ask for permission for because the browser gives you that. So yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, as far as the what's available in the browser, I mean, you can certainly change the option. So if I went to a site and it's comes up in pound sterling and I wasn't in England, then I would change it. So, but yeah, I mean, there may be other ways that you can achieve the same results. I mean, this is essentially just gone over the way that the approach that we've taken.
And once the user sets their currency, make sure to store that either on their account or in a cookie, so when they come back, I'll get my one.
That is,
Yeah.
yes, that is definitely something that's up to the development team to do. But yes, it's sure, you don't want to set it to US dollars and then go back to it and it switches back to pounds. So yeah, there's got to be a cookie there that stores that.
Right, that's all we've got time for.